Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Happy Bringling. We at Bringle team, along with Vardhan, Women Lines, Solworks, and Purnam Foundation, would like to thank all the speakers, participants, and viewers on our Bringle Blended Meetups platform and to the people who are watching us live at YouTube channel Bringle Talks. Do subscribe it and hit the bell so that you can watch it the next live session at your own convenience. Lots of people are now asking us, what does Bringle mean? Myself, Anshab Jain, founder of Bringle, would like to share that Bringle is a coined word. It's a trademark word, brain plus tingle. The tingling sensation you get when you achieve your exemplary ideas or your great ideas with your exemplary efforts. And the sensation which you get is all about the Bringle moment. And we would like to bring a lot of moments in your life like that. And that is why happy Bringling. Now, pearls of wisdom of the yesterday's topic, Blue Ocean Strategy. Karvinder Sharma mentioned that Blue Ocean Strategy is all about uncontested market. It could be current customers or new customers. It's a big picture, a trendsetter and unreachable. Sangeet Kumar shared that real estate industry is undergoing a lot of changes. Virtual space is becoming window to showcase the place. He says future is a hybrid model of online and offline with advanced technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality. Startups from tier 2, tier 3 cities also needs to be focused and connect them with the local HNIs with blended platforms, meetups platforms and networking platforms like Bringle. Santosh Kotian, a venture capitalist firm, a personality, spoke that 93% workforce is going to be working from home now. He shared examples of Facebook, Uber, Ola, how they've changed the customer experiences. He said AI, image analytics, video conferencing based technologies would be commonly used and going to disrupt the market. With this, I would like to request startups and entrepreneurs to upload their pitch deck at bringleacademy.com/course/business sustainability, and they will get a chance to pitch it live in front of our cross-border investors, and we are going to come up with the world's first radio Shark Tank. So do take this opportunity and come back, so that you can participate in the live pitching. With this, I would like to request Rajshri to and Charu to introduce today's speakers and take this discussion forward.
Thank you, Asha. A very good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to the whole global community there. So the topic for today is business sustainability. And as entrepreneurs and business owners, this is a topic which every entrepreneur is looking forward to learn tips from the expert panel today. So it's a pleasure to welcome Avi Sakalarkar, Director EA Channel Technology Cybersecurity Solutions, Eton, Singapore. Adaptable leader with focus on building meaningful relationship, experience of running channel, MPD, products distribution and alliances in NAM and APAC. Channel distribution alliances, regional planning and business capture, and new product development and management. Welcome, Avi, to the show. We have Ajit Joshi, founder and CEO, Corporate Recipes from New Zealand. His core strengths are renowned corporate strategy builder, business turnaround expert, dynamic leader, multi-industry exposure, startup expert, very well networked, experienced in emerging markets and emerging technologies. Some of the industries that he has worked with are information technology, FMCG, textiles, smart card, renewable energy. He has also successfully set up companies and run operations in India, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And currently, he's a mentor with 91 Springboard, co-working space, and associated with Zone Startup India. Welcome, Ajit, to the show. We have Avinash Jaiswal, Director at Consult CXO India, Chartered Accountant, IM alumni. A chartered accountant who specializes in strategy, financial planning, funding, valuation, and M&A advisory and due diligence. He has founded consulting venture called Consult CXO. Avinash brings expertise knowledge around the startup ecosystem. Given his entrepreneurial spirit, he has led finance teams of some of the finest startups like Truecaller, Box8, Chiller, Coupon Dunya, and Indus OS. Welcome, Avinash, to the show. And myself, Charu Mehrotra, I'm founder of online magazine minimises.com. It is listed in top women online magazine to follow in 2020. So do follow it, subscribe it. Thank you so much. I hand over to Mani to take it further.
Thank you, Charu. Very good evening to everyone. This is Mani Lakraju, founder of SolveWorks, and we help startups on the first mile run of transforming ideas into startups for small businesses with mentoring, technology advisory, and help on fundraising. I would like to start the session with a saying. I am not running for sainthood. I just happen to think that in life, we need to be little like the farmer who puts back in the soil what he takes out. So let's be the farmer today, listen to our esteemed speakers on their insights about business sustainability. And I have few queries I'm going to ask all the speakers. And to start with, let me ask Avi. Avi, welcome to the show. My first question to you, Avi, is science always uses metaphor. And business sustainability is to use, analyze business models and drive change. Is it true? Please, can you share your comments?
Absolutely, Mani. First of all, thank you so much, guys, for having me in this chat show, or an attempt for you folks to expand the community, pass on the knowledge. I really appreciate that. Going back to your question, Mani, I absolutely believe so. I mean, the whole concept of business sustainability will have mainly three pillars that we work on: environmental, social, and financial. I'm a firm believer of, nothing really happens with a strong thought, knowledge, and science. If you don't have any one of the components completely, the chances are you may not be able to be fully successful. And, a scientific approach, a thoughtful process, and an ability to execute what you have done, what you have studied, and what you firmly believe in is extremely important. That's just my opinion.
Great. We have been listening and learning about process innovation and business model innovation recently in our sessions. We would like to understand more of your thoughts on how to implement that for business sustainability.
If I may ask.
Avi, I would like to add out here. I'm sorry. You want to ask a question first, and I'll add.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure the question is clear to me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Mani, can you repeat your question? That's what.
The question is about business innovation and process innovation, which we have been talking about. So how can we put that to attain business sustainability?
Yeah. I would like to add there, Avi. So considering the current scenario, a lot of businesses are shifting their business models from offline to online. And there is already a discussion going on that how the business models and the working style, working environment is also has to go blended. It's a mix of online and offline models. With that, there is a lot of issues with respect to human-machine interface issues in terms of understanding. There would be issues of cybersecurity would be emerging. So considering all of those scenarios, how the business sustainability is going to become important and how we can make it more smoother is what I think Mani was talking about.
Perfect. Thanks, Mani, and thanks, Ansha. Correctly said, I mean, the whole world is moving its shift from offline working to digital working. I mean, starting from a kid going to school as young as 3 or 4 years old until you're almost at the retirement age, right? It is a big change for most of us, I would say, including me too, working directly or working completely online. The biggest impact which I see, coming from a manufacturing industry and someone who is really an advocate of cybersecurity is how secure are you? How secure is your processes, and how secure are basically you're able to secure your supply chain? So yes, there are a few measures which any industry, could be a manufacturing, it could be a marketing, or even a sales organization. As a matter of fact, we need to bring it in And as I mentioned, one of the biggest advocate is, I always talk, is the cybersecurity. There has been a lot of changes happening in the last almost 8-9 years that has resulted in improved processes around the cybersecurity. And it has resulted in the businesses running quite smoothly because the systems and the infrastructure which is behind that we don't see from naked eyes is basically running in a smoother fashion. So simply put, all the critical infrastructure that we rely on, the medical industry or digital industry, or could be any other applications, is being secured well. As a result, the front end business is able to sustain well. That's my layman definition and thoughts on this topic.
Thank you, Avi. I'll come back to you with other set of questions. Now I move on to Mr. Ajit. Ajit, my question to you is like business sustainability calls out for a purpose-driven leadership. Being a good human, is it a good business? Can we understand this in layman terms? Can you help us?
Thanks, Mani, and thanks, I think, all of you first to get me on board for this to join and share my views. When we talk about business sustainability, I want to take a step backwards and really talk about strategy part, because strategy is a complex word and everybody keeps talking about a strategy. Now the question is, why am I driving is that what is strategy? Strategy is not maximizing profit, or strategy is not a goal. Strategy is creating the unique position in the industry in which you operate, which effectively means that it is not only the profitability, but it is also social, economic, and other aspects which one needs to cater. Now, coming back, when I talk about the social, economic, and all that, each one of them has got its own implications, whether you basically the environment in which you operate, the geography in which you operate, it's very critical to figure it out. So it is not a best company that one would want to create. It's what is the best position that I'm creating. Today, consumer doesn't look at only the product. Consumer also looks at it, whether it is ethically being managed, what satisfaction is it deriving out of it, and so on and so forth. I mean, just imagine a situation where, I came across like Tata Power is generating a power, but they have also allocated some to the renewable energy. Why? This is a classic case of, looking at a sustainability from an economic or environmental point of view. Now, when we talk about the leader not only has to ensure that the business runs and the profit is earned, but the question is, when you work on the environmental, society, and such aspects, you ultimately are also creating the brand value of the company. Brand value in the longer term actually derives the consumer to the product, and that's really establishes. I mean, that is what personally I feel. A leader doesn't have to be a good human being. He has to be a little bit visionary. He has to look after not only the profit, which is of course there, but also the other aspects. Let's not forget, world over, the investors and financiers are also looking at this aspect very critically. They are also asking questions in the funding round. What are your carbon footprints? How much is the waste management have you been doing? How much is the renewable energy has been generated or replaced? How will you answer this question? And that is where the leader comes, where he has to look at these aspects.
Thank you. That was a great insight. Now, this actually brings out another question. So leader has to front end and give the business a direction. Now, most of the times a wrong question to a leader will always produce a wrong answer. And we find that in the design. And the right question has to be asked. So what is that for a leader to make himself motivated and determined and to make it a business sustainable?
Yes. So when you look at the leader, I mean, the question is, it's always a participative decision-making process at a company, whether it is small or a big, but ultimately the final decision rests with the CEO or the founder or whosoever is running the board. The question is, if you have his board, which is asking a difficult questions, or are they playing the role of a devil's advocate? And by pointing him directly to the questions which normally should be asked. And this is where, you cultivate a participative management process in the company itself, which ultimately develops a leader. Because leader is, yes, profitability, money, that is why you're in the business. You're not running an NGO. But at the same time, I cannot ignore today the issues surmounting around the society, environment, other things, because tomorrow you never know, a competition may be working on those aspects, but you have completely ignored them. So I think the board level or the investor level, I mean, if it is investor funded, obviously the board or the investors has to ask very pointed questions. That is obviously, I always think, the finance guys always play that role of a devil's advocate, and they ask you always nasty questions as to why. No leader likes to be answered the question why. No, nobody likes that, right? That's what the process. And this is a process. There has to be an understanding between the 2 or 3 gentlemen who are really driving the company. That's how you develop the decision making.
Thank you. Your answer has actually triggered another question for me. So you intend to help us on decision making process. So does decision making process is critical for business sustainability? How can it help the leaders to manage it?
The decision making process, especially at the strategic or the board level, when you are talking about a new product, a new market, a new geography, a new vertical, whatever it is, whichever basket you put it. My first question is, in my experience over the last 3 decades, I have seen somehow, I mean, with due respect to the technocrats, whosoever it is there on this particular chat, but they always bubble with ideas, and it's great. You should have innovations, you should have products, you should have new developments. The question is it viable? Is it sustainable? Is it only short term, or is it a long-term player? Because a product or an innovation, if it is not a long-term player, then how does it make a difference to the company? I mean, that is how the decision making has to be a culmination of a process. You can't just rely saying that today I feel there is a need, or I'm seeing the need in the market, so I develop a product and put it out into the market. But what happens after 2 years? What happened after 3 years? Is it going to be long lasting? And that is why, decision making has to be always looked at from the end goal, or from the 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I can't just suddenly launch a product just because my leader feels that we want to launch a product. That's incorrect. So I think it's a process where you look at the strategy, you look at your positioning, you look at the end goal. Sometimes it happens that you have a great product, but it may not be your DNA. The company's DNA is not for running that product. And probably that would be the biggest mistake if you launch the product, but company is not geared up for that down the value chain.
Wow, thank you. That was a very detailed insight on connecting longevity with decision making, as well as more insights into innovation. Thank you for that. Now I move on to Avinash. Avinash, my first question to you is, the word comply cannot seems to be part of a vision. And so market conditions, loss of the land and customers can make an impact to business sustenance. Which one is critical, and what are your comments?
See, in my opinion, compliance and law regulations are most critical. You can still correct the market condition, you can still regain the confidence of the customers back, but you cannot surpass the laws and regulations or compliance. Generally, laws and regulations are being made either to conserve the environment or to protect the society. So on overall level, it serves the purpose for which the business sustainability asks for. So generally, business sustainability addresses 2 categories, which is to address the effect on environment and the effect on society. And the laws and regulations addresses both these effects. So in my opinion, uh, laws and compliance are the super critical for any business for the sustainability. For an
Okay.
example, for an example, let's say I would quote like this. Let's say liquor industry is prevailing in a particular state or a country, and if the country or state bans liquor in the state, your business is shut down at immediate with the immediate effect. So you can't do further on that.
Great. Thanks, Avinash, for that insight. This actually gives me another question from your answer. Like in the current COVID situation, there are a lot of relaxations given by the government and a lot of support given to the business for the Indian community. So how do you see this as a chance for the business to sustain, or what is the next step? How do you see that?
Definitely, a lot of enhancements have been given in terms of due dates. The governments have revised the due dates which were due in the March and the month of March or April has been extended till the month of June, and this will definitely help the businesses to manage their compliances because no one is going to office, everyone is working from home, and for all these compliance, lot of inter cooperation is required between the teams, between the your vendors and suppliers as well. So for an example, let's suppose if your supplier is not giving you invoices for the month of March, you cannot file your GST return for the month of April or March. So to support all these things, government has given some relaxation in terms of compliance due dates, and this is definitely going to help if we are surpassing the pandemic by the month of June.
Thank you, Avinash. Thanks for that. I also have another question for you. It's a bit tricky one. Like, see, politics hate a vacuum. If it is filled sometimes with hope, it is filled sometimes with fear. Now, then how do we marry the environmental, political, social landscape all into operations to attain business sustainability?
For
Is it
this,
possible?
I would say just do it what is right. For example, like we should observe what are we doing nowadays. So we are sanitizing, we are following the lockdowns, we are maintaining the social distancing, and this is what the right is. So if you talk about the lockdown, it is the forced political decision. So we are following that. If we are talking about the social distancing, that is the social requirement that we have to take care. If we are sanitizing, that's the environmental requirement. So that's what we are doing. So to answer the question, I must say that we must do whatever is right to do in the business. Even in talking in terms of the businesses, someone says that you should bribe to someone in the government to get your licenses or not. Up to you to decide whatever is right or not to sustain your business or not.
Great.
Good
Thank you.
answer.
With the, yeah.
I think you should ask this
That's-
answer to question to everybody.
Yeah,
Though there
sure.
will be
I'll
similar
repeat.
perspective, but still different dimension.
Different dimension. That's why I said it's a bit tricky question. So yeah, maybe I would invite other speakers, Mr. Ajit as well as Mr. Avi, to share their thoughts for the same question. You want me to repeat the question? Ajit, maybe you can.
Yeah. If you can just little bit repeat, because it's a very tricky one. I want to be sure.
Yeah, sure. See, what I stated is like politics hates a vacuum. Okay, if it's filled, either sometimes it's filled with hope or sometimes with fear. But then, as a business, how do we marry the environmental, political, social landscape into operations to attain business sustainability?
The first and the foremost, if I'm running a business, I would say that I want to be neutral. You know, whether it is in my marketing campaigns, whether in terms of my leadership, whether in terms of my online and digital presence outside to the world, I want to appear as a neutral. Because politics is something which is it can't go, I can't really say my future or my business really is dependent on that. In fact, if I see your questions, which I got it, that is one aspect which I will completely cut it out of my ecosystem. I will become just simply neutral, because I think the social and the economic aspects are far more critical for me to create a brand value and the image, rather than getting associated with any political party or the political ideology, and which is something which I don't think any business should actually do that. Being neutral is the best answer I can give for the political aspect.
Yeah, it sounds almost similar to Avinash saying, stick to the basics and just do the business. That's so nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Avi, maybe your comments on that?
Are we
All right, so Ajit and Avinash, you guys have summarized it really well. And one of the things which I always preach, practice, and speak to my team as well, and when I run teams in EMEA and North America, is you got to adapt. Number one, you got to accept you cannot change few things, and you have to constantly keep on changing. And and regardless of the situation surrounding, there's few things in your hand, and that is you control. You basically take care of that. A few things which you cannot control, you just leave it. So there's nothing that can go beyond law, beyond the governance, and I would leave business aside, but just accept, adapt, and thrive to keep a business sustainable.
Oh, thank you. It was good. Okay, now I move to another question which I would like to hear from all the three speakers, but I would like to start with Avi. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Does it mean that communication and competitive advantage has to be the core pillars of business sustainability? What can be the takeaways?
Communication, Mani, is an extremely key component for me. And again, you just based on my personal experience for working with different teams, different culture, different habits, different languages. I mean, East Asia itself, we have 10 major countries, 10 languages. Just so you know, back in India, you have multiple languages. So communication, and prior to that, empathy is extremely important for me before even I think of doing business. It's a core of any thought that I can try to execute. So I mean, I would never deviate from being a very humble and empathetic communicator. If I really want to sustain my business.
Very true. And what is the view about competitive advantage? How can we create the best, predict the best feature, having a competitive advantage?
Did you say complete advantage?
Competitive advantage.
Competitive advantage. And can you repeat the question again, please, Mani?
The best way to predict future is to create it. And does it mean that competitive advantage has to be the core pillars of business sustainability? What can be the takeaway?
Again, simple fundamental, which we all learn in the school, stay in the learning lane, keep learning, and, be hungry, be humble. I think that has benefited me a lot. Again, I'm not talking only from the business perspective. It is just to develop overall as a personality. I mean, now look at the whole scenario right now going on across the world. The whole world is moved from being offline or just attending sessions to online, including engineering students or manufacturing. Could be leveraging machine learning, etc. So the whole competitive feeling is a very relative term, I would say. I think to put it in simple words, just keep learning. Just be in the learning lane, and try to be the best version of yourself every day.
Great, thank you for that. Now I move on to Ajit to have his views for the same question.
There are two aspects. One is communication. When I think of communication, basically One is the internal, one is the external. I mean, my personal experience of setting up companies in Middle East, Indonesia, Africa, the cultures are very, very different, and it is extremely important to align the teams mentally with each other while they are operating. I mean, especially in a situation where you are in a technology situation and my technology is into one country, but the operations are different. See, it is extremely important. That's one part. And the second part is about the communication with the external factors, whether be it an investor or a shareholders or the customers or competitors, anyone. The consistency in the communication has to be maintained. You cannot have communication at a different level at going different messages. So outside, the communication is of a different nature, which needs to be maintained. Inside, you need to create a very, very synergetic environment by constantly talking to the people, sharing and building up that. Coming to the competitive advantage, any leader, any business will always keep looking for the competition or what is happening in the industry. Now, how do you mitigate the competitive advantage or disadvantage? There are two ways to look at it. Either you create a unique or differentiating position in a product, or you lower the cost. There is virtually no example or a very few. You cannot have a differentiated unique product, but also have the lower cost. So which way are you going to compete with others? Either you lower the cost or you differentiate. Now, the only case it can happen is that your competitor is so extremely operationally efficient that he has succeeded into reducing cost, but also created a product, which is very difficult. So as a strategy, I'm coming back to the same thing again. When I'm creating a strategy and position, I would love to see how do I want to tackle competition? Is it by reducing cost, or is it by creating a innovation and the uniqueness of my product? That's how I would look at it. Once I define that road, I exactly know which direction my effort should go, my R&D should go, my innovation should go, or I should just work on my operational efficiencies. These are two different aspects.
Ajit, you have actually brought up a very important point out here, and very good synergy and balance between strategy, market share, and different pricing in terms of that, whether it has to be, into a low cost or a high cost. Now, my question is specifically from, and I think yesterday also we were having the similar discussion, that whatever we talk about these strategies, pricing, competitiveness, and all that, it can work out very well in the market, which is, or in the startup, which is quite rightly funded. Now the startups who are just starting up, how do they balance out into this entire scenario is what I would like you to add over there.
In fact, just to answer your question, and also I saw another question which was directed to me about the startups and the investments, right? I just saw on the chat.
Right.
Now, whenever I'm doing any mentorship to startups, my first question in my first meeting is that, are you doing this business for a valuation, or are you doing this business for profit? If you are doing this business for a valuation, then you are a short-term player. I don't think you have any interest in really running this for a few decades. Ultimately, how do you define your success as an entrepreneur? Is it only a success in terms of the numbers and sell it? Or is it a success leading to significance, which ultimately the business and stability into socio-economic factor and creating a position? Now, your question is that, yes, they do get funded. Now, it's very unfortunate, startups. In fact, I always say it has become an abused word to a certain extent, that everybody says that it is a startup. Now, investor, when he puts it, he is very clear in his mind. He needs exit, whether it is 3-year, 5-year, 8-year, 10-year. The question is, as an entrepreneur, what exit route are you going to offer him? Are you going to do a buyback? Are you going to sell, or are you going to IPO? There are very few examples I have come across who have really gone to IPO. So it is a sale. But the question is, then you are only looking at increasing the valuation. You are not really working very hard to create a profit. And this is precisely what is happening. There are two different sets. There are examples of startups who are actually created huge empires and they are really making good profits. But their whole objective was not sale, not creating only valuation, because these are two different things. If you are running a company which is a very sustainable model, which is a very unique and positionally placed and creating all these socioeconomic factor and the profitability, I think the valuation automatically gets added up. It is like, how do I look at it? I mean, I'm a short-term player. Okay, fair enough. I launch it, I create it, I take a patent, I generate a value, I sell it off, make my money, and thank you. Is that what I am doing? Is that what I want to do? That is a very important question, and that I think I have seen it very often, especially in the technology world.
Yeah, very true. Because most of the deep tech startups have the basis for valuation, and that's how they try to prove it has been doing well on those grounds. Yeah, I'm also part of many of these kind of sessions, and I also come across hearing these.
So, Ajit, just a moment, Mani. I just want to add ask something from Ajit again. Ajit, see, I understand, and I'm also into the reason why we have also at Bringle designed the program Design Your Unicorn, considering that we want to bring focus back to businesses. But as a reality, if you see the businesses, the entrepreneurs, when they start and when they go out into the market, the customers demand a certain price. I mean, of course, it will be a much lower price than what they are thinking, or it could be a, the market might not be ready to pay that premium value to that product or service. Now, in those scenarios, when you're not funded, probably most of the cases, these startup founders are also not funded, or they're not even funding, taking their salaries and stuff, but continuing to do the service. How long they can continue in such scenarios, and what should be the strategy for them with respect to pricing and market share?
Especially when you are starting, obviously every startup entrepreneur goes through a situation where you are very small, you don't have position, you don't have reputation, there is no brand. So you always tend to take a backseat or bend too much to go and to hook up the first customers. If there is a product, and if you see that I have a product map over the next 1 year or 2 year where I'm going to define a device and maybe add on a different features to my product or to my service bucket, there my recommendation always is that don't undersell the price. What probably you can do is that keep the price same, but you offer incremental innovations, features, or services to them at free and at no cost. It is extremely difficult to step down on a price or take it up. You are getting my point. What I'm trying to say is that especially the consumer in a startup ecosystem is very close. They are very close. They are very knowledgeable. They also talk to each other. I can't differentiate on a price with the moment my situation changes, whether I am funded or I am not funded. I can't shift my price just because I'm funded. Price is something which has to have a sustainability, continuity. Otherwise, you leave a lack of confidence in the consumer mind, saying that this company is tend to shift the price as and when they want. So that's the another strategy. You offer a freebies rather than reducing price. You offer the introductory. You say that my product is 100 rupees. As an introductory for 6 months, I'm giving 50. Or maybe it is 100 rupees, but I will add on and I will give the free basket of next features for the next 6 months. You are not discounting. After 6 months, at least you can retain 100. You don't want to go down to 50. That's how I look at the price mechanism, which is a very short-term game in the startup when you're starting. Because there is most of the time, there is no benchmarking of the product if it is a very unique product. If there is no benchmarking, how do you define which is the right price? How does even customer define which is the right price? He doesn't know. There is no established benchmark to compare it. In the established benchmark product, yes, you have a problem because you are immediately compared with somebody else.
I think brilliantly answered, Ajit. Avinash, you want to say something?
So,
Hear
so
you.
talking about the pricing which the startups are setting nowadays. So, let's say the real pricing, what should be price should be Y to attain the certain level of profitability at a volume of X. But what the nowadays startups are doing, they are selling the price it less than the Y to attain the volume of 2X. They are not looking at the game of X volume. So the whole game is about to create the scale, and at that scale bring the company into break even or into bringing down the price. As of now, they see that they will bring more customers, they will bring more scale, they will bring more volume, and with the more volume, probably they can reach out to the profitability.
Yeah,
Great.
Avinash, I think you brilliantly
Thanks.
answered from
Yeah.
the finance perspective, and it was very much required. I actually had another question, but we'll take it up later. So let Mani complete his questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to complete the feature rush or prediction. There's a lot of, there's a lot of prediction with business that there's a post-COVID situation that is with a lot of feature, a lot of shift in business, there's a lot of opportunities by going digital. All these things are evident with a lot of businesses now. So how do they see the competitive advantage to ensure that they are there and they get a right direction when everything opens up? It should not be like a mad rush. So how do we look at this situation? I would like to hear views from all the speakers.
So talking about the competitive advantage, uh, it is nothing but the leverage a business enjoy over its competitors. So uh, how do I see this situation at present, that everyone is sitting at home and lot of ideas are going into mind of the people? I see that there will be flood of the startups after this COVID-19, because a lot of ideas
Yeah.
are just cooking in the mind of people. So talking about uh, how do you maximize the benefit of competitive advantage over this, the whichever idea is going to gain more customer, whichever idea is going to gain more traction, or the idea is more in the line of people thoughts, will definitely be the champion in the long run. But we never know what kind of ideas are going to come. Definitely at this moment of time, we can see that a lot of things are going to get digitalized, a lot of things are going to get automated, and with the time goes beyond that, we'll have to see. We'll have to just wait and watch for the future.
Wow. Nicely answered. Ajit, your comments on that?
See, if you ask me, digitization is not something to be, it is not thought now. In fact, this wave has started about 5-6 years back only. It is not that COVID-19 is pushing people to shift online. Online has been a wave for at least 7-8 years, probably. Now, I would rather put these two things in a separate manner. Those companies who are technology, where there are invisible products and services, they were anyways online. They were anyways online. They were doing business online. The question is about the manufacturing companies or about the infrastructure and such hardcore nut and bolt companies. How do they take the route where they have suddenly come to a grinding halt? Now, it's impossible to shift online suddenly, but maybe gradually they have to start thinking as to which small processes or which small areas where they can actually digitize. That is how they have to start looking at it. Because what has happened is that we don't know how long this is going to remain, right? I mean, just because COVID is there, but prior to COVID, let's understand a situation somewhere in the last year, 2019 or so. Are we saying that digitization was not there? Are we saying that online was not there? All e-commerce companies were earlier also doing online, and they will also continue to do online now. So I don't know. Somehow I'm just thinking that I would segregate this into two parts. One is a complete manufacturing a hardware, which is really a backbone of the industry or the economy. How are they going to do the challenge? It's not possible to do a production doing online. I'm sure Avi will understand and appreciate, because he has been also a manufacturing guy. I have also been a manufacturing for quite a few years. But that's how I think we are going to look at it. As far as the startups and the products are concerned, they startups are like mushrooms. They keep coming. I mean, whether it is a COVID or whether it is not a COVID, I think every day I keep meeting them. It's unimaginable the kind of ideas I keep meeting in my mentoring session.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
Good answer, Ajit and Avinash, and I completely will resonate with that. Coming from a manufacturing background, majority of the business that we do is manufacturing, and I would say 25-30% would be more of the value-added features, as Ajit mentioned. It is difficult. When you're running a $1.4 billion organization in APAC, and suddenly your manufacturing is at standstill, you sometimes scratch your head, what's going on? How can I come out of this, right? So a lot of brainstorming, a lot of innovative thinking, and reaching out to people to see how things can come back to normal. One of the things which we have done recently in our Taiwan and Philippines factory is basically, we've been actually doing this for quite a while now, is bringing in artificial intelligence and machine learning concepts. It's been a practice we've been doing for the last 18 months. Somehow this COVID-19 resulted in just speeding up the whole process. But that said, it is still a big impact on the economy, because when a manufacturing industry is broken, the economy is shaken. That's how it is. So let's see how, and let's be optimistic.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Avi. I just like to bring up a classic case of a startup that recently I came across. See, they are sustainable now. They are more into online courses. They sell online courses, but they are in tie up with a lot of universities. So they are happily sustainable and selling online courses. Now with this COVID situation, the universities would like to go digital and sell their courses themselves. Now the startup came back to me asking, how can we be sustainable in this situation? It's more like the primary parent or the company itself is going online. And whatever his USP of the startup's USP of selling the university courses online is really questioned from this COVID situation. How do you see this kind of businesses, and what is your comments?
Can I, Avi?
Yes,
can
Ajit, please.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
See, I think this is exactly the right time for them to take a pivot in their business model. This is exactly because when you are doing an online course selling for a university, let's take an example of Harvard or Stanford. You are doing it for them. What is your value addition? Nothing. You are actually an enabler. You are not adding any content. You are not creating something new, innovative. You're just enabler. As long as enabler is there, it is always, there is a risk that the parent would someday step in. Probably this is the time where they can create something of their own, which becomes their USP or their patented product, take a pivot and start to do it. If you just Google Harvard and Stanford, I think there are tons of free courses now they have started offering.
Exactly.
If I get a stamp from Harvard, why should I go to anybody else? This is exactly what happens. You need to create something differentiated, something unique of your own. That's my very quick answer to your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajit. That was very
Mani, I think Ajit has picked up the very right point, and that is what the business. This is the best time for people to actually check on their business models, and this is it's going to be a testing time for most of the startups and businesses.
I would like to quote an example over here.
Please.
I was aware about a company which is into logistics. They are actually a delivery partner for big guys like Amazon or Flipkart. And with the the non-essential items being banned for the Amazon or Flipkart, their whole delivery system was sitting at home. So they realized that how to gain something out of the situation, that their delivery boys are sitting at home and nothing is moving on. So they pivoted from their original business idea and they launched their own grocery items to be delivered at home steps. And with this situation, only retail shops are being opened, the kirana shops are open. They're actually doing some good business and delivering the groceries to the doorsteps. Probably this pivot idea they can continue in the long run as well.
Yeah, there were many such success stories also in Bengaluru, where a lot of startups quickly pivoted, and delivering the groceries to the apartments. The entire societies are getting benefited in this lockdown situation. Great, thank you. With that, my questions are done, and thanks for all the insights from all the speakers. And I would like to open the forum for questions from the audience or anyone. Thank you.
Okay, there is a question from Sridevi to Ajit. Is there any formula to measure our business sustainability decision?
There is no fixed formula as such, that you can add up and measure your sustainability. It is basically the business environment in which you are operating. You need to figure it out and measure the impact. Now, let me give you some example, just to address it very quickly. If I'm using conventional power, can I not use the renewable energy? Number one. If I'm into agricultural, can I not get in a small innovation whereby using that I can save some power or a water or fertilizer? I have worked in agriculture and I have seen such models where it was a classic saving of a fertilizer and a water by a simple innovation. Now, that is nothing but you are actually creating a sustainability model. You're adding to it, you are reducing the waste, you are saving the water. Is it not something sustainable? So the measurability cannot be direct, it will be indirect, but yes, if you actually drill down as to exactly what you are trying to do it, yes, you can measure it.
I'm sure there are questions from you. You want me to ask or you would like to ask them?
I think, Avi, if you can go ahead with your answer. I'll just put up the question again for everybody. What I'm looking at is that what are the simple ways by which we can secure our online world, especially for the startups and from probably at the individual level as well. Because with a lot of things like which are coming up as a cyber security issues or even a normal security issues or content issues with respect to Zoom and other things, what are the other areas which you see as a threat coming in an online world and how we can take basic steps to control that?
It's a great question, and thanks, Ansham. This question has been actually asked to me many times in last, I would say, at least a good 9 to 12 months. I basically distribute this in two sections. If you're talking about a startup or any organization, one is your information technology, which is your IT backbone of the organization. And the second is operational technology, that is your facilities background of the organization. Both are very important. They both blend into each other. They both overlap each other to some extent, but you cannot ignore one and just focus only on IT. The issue that I've seen with most of the startups, at least most of the startups based out in Singapore with whom I consult, is their whole resources and energy and focus is behind securing their information technology architecture or I would say infrastructure, ignoring the OT, which is operational technology. So again, a short answer for this is secure your IT and OT. There's a blend between that. Make sure you secure that. And at least, by doing that, you will have a full secured infrastructure for you to be sustainable. Without infrastructure, you will not be able to really sustain for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's good into this. Is there any simple way, for people to check in, maybe some tools or something which we can use it when it comes to protection of simple websites and the database which is there available. How is that possible for people to test? And if they want to test it out, how secure their database is, what they can do? Is there are there some tools available like that?
There are, and these tools are actually available free of cost. There's 6 global tests basically you can avail that's free of cost online. It'll just help you understand how secure is your IT as well as your OT. By running the 6 tests in your infrastructure, you are more, I would say, more enabler. Where you're basically more knowledgeable to understand where it needs to be, what needs to be fixed and what needs more attention. So yes, there are, and I can share that with you later on via an email or something.
Ansha, we are on mute.
Sorry, I just put it on mute. I think I have a question from Firoz Tapia. He's from Kuwait. He's asking what is operational technology? So he's probably want a little more explanation on that.
Right, so thanks for asking this question, Firoz. Operational technology is something that backs your information technology. Now, I'm trying to be very non-technical here, but still I may use some technical terms. In IT, when you have a startup organization or when you're running an organization, you may have something called a server, a storage system, a networking device like your a Cisco networking switch, something like that, and a collaboration device. So these 4 things form an IT infrastructure. Again, server, storage, networking, and collaboration. Now these 4 components are typically secured by many organizations like Cisco, Palo Alto, SonicWall, etc. Now these 4 components blend with a UPS, a power distribution, a cooling unit, and could be anything that goes in a data center. So these are all the 4 operational technologies which are backing up your information technology. A lot of times, customers or startup companies, they only focus on these 4, unknowingly ignore these 4. So they don't intentionally do it, but they just don't know that they need to secure these 4 as well. And when you're exposing this to hackers, your infrastructure is actually going to do pretty fast. So that's those 4 components: UPS, power distribution, racks, and any hot aisle, cold aisle are the 4 operational technologies.
Thanks, Avi. I think it was clearly understood. At least I have understood it pretty well. And I think we can make it more simplified if anything is there later on. Ajit, you've already answered my question in your earlier answer. It was very detailed and very apt. So I'm moving to a question which I've asked to Avinash. Avinash, you've worked in startups like Truecallers, Boxit, Coupon Dunia, and I think a couple of other brands, which are already a brand and established startups by now. My question to you is that when you start an organization, you coming from a finance background and you're running your own organization, a startup now, what do you think that the balance of investments and long-term growth, where we should focus, like Ajit was mentioning, valuations versus long-term sustainability? How important the finances are, because ultimately you have to pay the salaries of your employees, the infrastructure, and you have to fund yourself as well in some extent so that you survive. Otherwise, the whole thing can collapse. So as a single entrepreneur or 1 or 2 member team or a co-founders, what do you suggest for them when they start off their startup journey or entrepreneurship journey?
Thank you for bringing this question. There's a term in the startup world, runway. So runway is being extensively used by the founders and the investors. And this runway is nothing but to calculate that with the available resources, cash resources, how long you can survive by paying all salaries, by meeting all expenses. Uh, it also includes the revenues which you are going to earn throughout that period. So a thorough study and a proper financial budgeting is required to calculate this runway. Once this budgeting is in place, you'll have to completely stick to it. You should not do any pennies extra expense out to on any of the expenses. And once you stick to this budgeting process, you can at least achieve your runway. And by the time, let's say if you are seeing from now on, let's say if you have a 12 months of runway, in between you can target for your next round of investments, and you can be in the talks with the investors to get the next round of funding. uh, my experience around this had been that when any new startups gets a early round of investments, they start spending it madly. I had actually seen with the founders, this phenomena happens with the founders, that they start spending madly, and they actually land up in the situation when very soon, if they had seen a runway situation of 12 months, but they land up in that situation within 8 months, and then they realize the what is the cash crunch situation is. And this is the time which actually makes them learn. And once they get the second round of funding, then they become more cautious around it, and then they start spending it smartly in line with the budgets.
Uh, yeah, I understand that part, and I think you're right. So I have seen other phenomena as well, wherein startups have got funded and maybe a commitment, rather I would say investment commitments. And by the time they started growing, they've actually probably underutilized the funds. And there are investors who will say, "Why do you need so many funds? And if you are not putting in," and they put a lot of pressure on them. And sometimes because of that pressure and whatever the money is being spent, and most of the times initially the founders also do not take salaries. So in that scenario, uh, if the investment also stops, I have seen startups going out of the market. How's that situation which startup founders can sustain?
See, generally what happens when you get a funding, you put a highly aggressive projections in front of the investors. And when you say that investors are, along with giving money, they are putting some commitment also for the further rounds. These commitment comes along with lot many condition terms and conditions. And since you have given a highly aggressive projections which you could not meet, and with that situation coming in, uh, there's very difficult it is very difficult for you to get the commitment which the investors have initially agreed on. And also, with these numbers, with these growth story, when you go to the another investors or different investors, it becomes for you very difficult to defend your situation, that even after getting some sort of money, you could not reach the growth story which you had projected earlier. So it's actually difficult. What startup should do, that founders has to be honest while giving their projections. They should give those kind of projections only what is achievable. Just to find a valuation, or to just to get the a good amount of funding, it is very difficult to survive in the long run. You can definitely get a one round of funding, but you cannot fool the investors in the long run.
See, you're right. I mean, just want to add, I think we are running short of time. I don't want to get into too many things. But just want to ask one thing here. See, when it comes to projections, sometimes it is very difficult for us to define the right projections. And it's all based on certain assumptions. Market may or may not accept. So what I'm trying to understand is that as a founder, what we should do to ensure that the projections are not overstretched or understretched.
No, so this projections comes from the this projections and assumptions come from the vision of the founders. So you must have seen the projections where it starts from the population itself. So this is the country's population. This would many would be our customers. And that's how they start doing the projections. So if the assumptions and the vision of the founder is itself not accurate at the start, uh, it is very difficult for me to at least gain some sort of success story, or to get the scale what the company was looking at. So the basics is not accurate. How can you reach at the top?
I think you pretty well answered that, Avinash. So we'll take it up now to uh, Rajshri for the pulse of wisdom. Ajit, I'm really sorry we are overstepping your times. I know it's very, very late, and I really want to thank you for that, being there. Rajshri, please go ahead with pulse of wisdom.
Actually,
Yeah.
if you can allow me for 1 minute, just to carry on with what Avinash has said,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah,
know,
please.
in my experience where I have done at least 8 or 10 rounds of funding as a, CFO, founder, whatever it is, it's not only the controlling of the cost. The controlling of the cost is essential, but in that particular funding round or the runway, what is the valuation that you are going to create at the end of that runway is going to define how much is your dilution in the next round for a founder. So when I am saying yes, it is not only plus minus what is the loss that I have, what is the valuation that this investment is going to create. I don't want to keep diluting, otherwise I'll come to the zero by end of the third or the fourth round. And that is exactly what happens, and which is very essential for a founders to know that.
So you're right. I think valuation in itself is a bigger topic to discuss. So I would definitely want to connect with all of you separately and all your expertise. You have wonderful insights which you have shared. And believe me, I love this thing because I have been, very passionately trying to bring and develop this thing. And we have raised our earlier seed funding 2 years ago, and not whatever the investment we are raising at this time, along with the other investors with whom we are working for the live pitching for the cross-border startup ecosystem. So I think these questions are coming up very open, very upfront in front of us, and there's no big clarity. I mean, nobody knows how to evaluate startups at this point in time. But yes, we will take it up. I'll connect with you offline on that.
Sure.
Rachri, over to you.
Thank you, Anshu. Thanks, everybody. I think if when we overstep the time, I will blame all the speakers for being so well. It goes back to them, not to
But I
us.
was very cautious looking at the clock. We are stretching too much of time for Ajit.
So
Yeah.
money I clarified.
So I was very happy when Ajit asked for a minute.
Oh, great.
So, pearls of the wisdoms for today. Avi Sakalkar, you defined the business sustainability into three parts: mental, social, and financial. Scientific approach with thoughtful understanding is required. For business sustainability, it is important to secure process and supply chain management. You advised in the critical situation of political, social, and business scenario, adapt, accept, and thrive. Whatever you have in your hand, you control. Ajit, you stressed on strategy is not strategy is not enough good enough, but you have to create a unique position uh, which you operate, and you talked about the of creating unique position is has to be social economic aspect. Best company is not important, but the best positioning is important. You focused on important aspect of combining leadership of economical and social aspect. World around financial institutions are asking for social responsibility aspect to make this world a better place along with the economical growth. You also talked about leaders' role, participative management process. It is a process. Decision making is a culmination of the process. And the great product and company's DNA must be checked and should be same if you have to achieve. Uh, the question that was on how to merge political, social, and business scenario while running the business, you said that it is better to be neutral. You also talked about align teams mentally, irrespective of geographies, and cross and cross concentrating on communication, which has to be maintained and create synergies in the environment when you are managing teams. Your definition, you differentiated between profitable organization and organizations which are going for valuation. You talked about organizations which are focusing on profit are long term, they make money, whereas those who go for valuation take money and go for the next next venture. Very well defined, Ajit. Price has to be sustainability and continuity. Offer freebies rather than reducing the price. That has been your message. Avinash Jaiswal, you pointed out very beautifully that law and regulations are made to conserve the environment and serve the society. This is a very good, definition I have heard from somebody, because people talk about compliance and rule is so drab and dry subject, but you have connected this so well with the environment and the social need, and that is the truth. Law and regulations have this effect on current scenario. You also talked about when the question was on political, social, and and uh, synergies are there. What is the best uh, focus? So you were talking about do what is right. That was your suggestion, and you gave this example of political is the lockdown, social is the social distance, and environment is the sanitization. Avinash, you also talked about the startup runway situation to be managed by uh, budget and no extra expenses. This is the perfect finance controller statement I have heard today. Startups spend madly when they get funds, and this is the time they learn. And the next time when they get the fundings, they are more careful. You also talked about the founders have to be honest and upfront in their projections to survive and the second round of investment. I think this was a, not just pearls of wisdom. This was kind of a 1 hour course on how to, manage your business from all the angles. Thank you very much. While writing all these notes, I have learned so much, and there is going to be change in my own approach while dealing with my business. This is Rajashri Rajshekar, founder of Poonam Foundation. We create gender neutral workplaces and societies and mindsets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you, Rajshri.
totally agree with you, Rashri. When we started the session, I was like, how we could put business sustainability into the discussion. But we very well went through that. As I said, we did do a farmer's job and took the harvest today into
Yes.
sustainability. Thank you for that.
I
Thank
have
you for all the speakers.
I have a quick comment on that, if you don't mind me saying something. Again, I appreciate you guys having me here. Learned a lot from Ajit as well as Avinash, because I believe they bring in a very different set of expertise, experience, and a business acumen. So thank you so much, guys, and everybody attending this.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think thanks Avi, thanks Avinash and Ajit. It's all A today. Yesterday it was S, supposedly.
Yeah.
So I think the wideness of the strength of this today's session on business sustainability is that we have expert on corporate strategy, business modeling and all from Ajit, who has been having a wonderful, great experience. He's spoken about very clearly about a lot of aspects on that. We had the finance aspect coming in from Avinash. We had the technology and cybersecurity aspects coming in from Avi. So it was a wonderful session, and I think Mani brought in a very interestingly the political angle and social angle as well into it. So which actually made it as a complete segment or a complete, the enterprise requirements wherever it is required from that. So from the completeness point of view, it's an actual business sustainability model or the session which we had in just 1 hour. Whatever we have heard, I think Ajit mentioned about lot about process, lot about metrics and things like that. So now I think I would first of all want to thank all our speakers today, who has spent their valuable time today with us and sharing their wonderful insights. Avi, who is the director in EA Channel Technology Cybersecurity Solutions. Ajit Joshi, who's been part of New Zealand, who's in New Zealand, founder of CEO Corporate Recipes. Avinash Jaiswal, he has started his own venture at Consult CXO, while he has worked in a lot of earlier ventures like Box 8 and Truecaller, etc. With this, I would also like to thank our community partner, Women Lines, specifically the radio partner, Southeast Asia, which is Radio Masti 24/7, who are publishing daily Pulse of Wisdom in their daily live show. Do tune in to their application. It is available both in iOS and Android. That's the Radio Masti 24/7 is the only Hindi speaking radio channel in Southeast Asia. They are currently having 1.4 million listeners as of now. So do tune in and keep watching keep listening to those Pulse of Wisdom, which are going in live every day from all our 21 days challenge. I would like to thank Solworks being as a startup partner, gender neutrality partner, Purnam Foundation, social impact partner, Vardhan, ecosystem partner, Millennium Divas, financial partner as LEC Wealth Advisors Private Limited, real estate services partner as PPO Club, community partner, Connected Experience, which is supported by Pooja, Yusuf, Shuchi, Kasturi, and Charu. Consulting partner PMC and business networking partner ICX Pro. ICX Pro is also a cross-border global networking group which has got more than 5,000 plus SMEs and experts across the globe, and they are helping us to get many speakers from all across the globe. So there are a lot of partners who are supporting us in bringing the best of the talent, the best of the speakers and the panelists out here. Thanks to all of them. This entire initiative would not have been possible without our Fab5 team. So myself, Anshaf Jain, founder of Bringle. I would like to thank Sharmila Diwatia, who is the CEO and co-founder at Bringle. Also, she is managing an additional responsibility of managing director at Vardhan, which is our CSR wing. Thanks to Charu from Singapore, who is the founder of womenlies.com and running the topmost 40 online magazine right now, and she has been awarded with multiple awards. Rajshekar, who is the founder of Purnam Foundation and working very much on HR transformation and gender neutrality. Mani Lakaraju, who is the founder of Solworks and also been supporting dozens of startups in mentoring and providing technology solutions. So with this, I would like to thank everybody and just a moment. Okay. So with this, once again, thanks to everybody. Till then, please do tune in. Listen to this, watch it on our YouTube channel, Bringle Talks. Do subscribe it. And it will be much better if you can all of us join us at the Zoom call. In the session, you can get the Zoom call in your email ID with a secured access and automated 89% of the steps released by the Indian government advisory to ensure the data security and the video security. We are taking everything into our private cloud. There is no data which is being shared with the Zoom, including the recordings as well as the user data. So please feel free to register it at bringleacademy.com/workshop/139. That's the workshop link. You should register for every day. You will get your email link 1 hour and 10 minutes before the session. Please do check your spams as well in case the mail has reached out there. Please keep subscribing and do tune into that. We are having a mega celebration event and a mega culmination event on Wednesday. So please block your seats because there are going to be a very limited seats on that. All the speakers who have come in on our platform, almost around 75 speakers, we are inviting all of them into one session. So you will have very limited seats available. So whoever wants to block it first, please do that as soon as possible. It will be only on a first come, first serve basis. With this, I would also again want to thank everybody. Until then, keep bringing, keep growing.
Thank you so much to all speakers for such wonderful sharing. Stay safe and take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all your time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.